infinite sequence and series. That sequence can be thought as a list of numbers written in a definite order. There will be an equation, then you are going to look for succeeding values pattern. For example, let's say a sub n is equal to 2n, and let n to infinity. So that means you are going to give the value of your a sub n as n approaches infinity. So it is a sub 1, it will be 2, a sub 2, it will be 4, a sub 3 will be 6, a sub 4 will be 8, and a sub 5 equal to 10. So ang a sub n will be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So yun yung kapag infinite sequence. Therefore, your a sub infinity, of course, 2 times infinity is infinity. This is considered a sequence. So, limit of a sub n where n approaches infinity, infinity. Papunta siya sa infinity if your n is infinity. Pero you have the sequence of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so on and so forth. So, that is the sequence. Another example is n over n plus 1. If we are going to get the sequence, so let's say n equal to n over n plus 1. So a sub 1 is 1 over 1 plus 1 is 1 half. Then a sub 2 is 2 over 2 plus 1 is 3. A sub 3 is 3/4. A sub 4 is 4/5. So your a sub n is 1 half, 2/3, 3/4, 4/5. Okay, so ibig sabihin nun, may mga kasunod pa siya until mag-approach siya sa infinity. Okay? But if we're going to use in terms of sequence, if the sequence, there will be, diba, ito pa. Kung ganun din, you will be substitute the values of n. So, makukuha mo to yung mga values na to. Now, in sequence, there is a limit. So, a limit of sequence by definition, a sequence a sub n has the limit L or constant if for every element greater than 0, there is corresponding integer n, such that your a sub n minus your constant will be less than that element. Or yung katulad na nilagay ko kanina, it will be limit of a sub n over n, where n approaches infinity, will be constant. Then, a limit of a sequence, so a sequence can be categorized as convergence and divergence. So, if that sequence exists, we say that the sequence is convergence. That means that the sequence is convergence if the limit is definite, or there is a specific value or a specific constant that is equated to that limit. If the sequence do not converge, and that means that is a divergence. Or note that the sequence is divergence if it approaches to infinity, or if the sequence does not approach to anything. So based here in our example, we have examples a sub n where is an is 2n. So our limit of a sub n for 2n, it approaches infinity, it will be infinity. So this means this example is divergence sequence. This will be limit of 2n as n approaches infinity will be infinity. And if limit of a sub n as n approaches infinity, the limit of n over n plus 1 as n approaches infinity, if we put it here, a infinity, it will be infinity over infinity plus 1. So, infinity plus 1 is infinity. So, infinity over infinity, any number divided by itself will be what? 1. So, that means a infinity for this specific sequence, it will be approaching to a value which is 1 based on identifying if it is convergence or divergence Then this sequence n over n plus 1, this is convergence. So that is the difference between divergence and convergence. Divergence to infinity, and a sub n as n approaches infinity equals infinity if your a sub m and n is greater than m, whereas n is greater than your specific integer. Then yung isa naman is the negative side. Pag divergence, we are noting it as, pwede natin sabihin that limit of 2n as n approaches infinity is positive or negative infinity. So that is, there is no boundary. Mapa-positive, mapa-negative, that will be the scope of your limit. So we have limit loss. We are considering that a sub n and b sub n is approaching to something that is convergence and c is a constant. Then if you perform the limit of the sum or difference of these two will be equal to getting the individual limits, tapos sasam mo siya and ipagde-difference. Then if your c is constant, if you're going to multiply a constant to a limit, it will be equal to limit times the constant times the a sub n. The limit of the product is equal to the product of the individual limits of these two. Then pag quotient naman, the limit of the division will be equal to the performing the individual limit muna, then you will divide as long as your limit b is not equal to 0. Kasi kapag ito nag-equal sa 0, that means it will be undefined. So limit of a to the power is equal to limit of a, then raising it to power if exponent is greater than 0 and your a is also greater than 0. When we say infinite series or series is the summation of all the elements in a sequence. So remember the difference between the sequence and series. Sequence is just collection of numbers, while series is the summation of those numbers. In terms of series, so it is noted as S. S sub 1, it will be 2. Then S sub 2 will be the sum of these two numbers. So it will be 6. S sub 3 is the summation of these three numbers, that is 12. S sub 4 is the summation of these four numbers, so that is 20. And S sub 5 will be 30. So our S sub n is 2, or pwede natin sabihin 2, 6, 12, 20, and 30. That. S sub n is equal to the summation of a sub n as n equal to 1 approaching infinity, until the infinity. So in series ulit, meron tayong tinatawag pa din na convergence and divergence, and their definition are the same. In convergence series, it should have a finite sum, or you can determine the sum of those series. Otherwise, kapag wala siyang definite sum, then that is a divergence. Yun yung similarity ng series and sequence. Convergence, there is a finite numbers or finite sum. Yun ang convergence. And divergence, there is an indefinite, undefined, kung hanggang saan. For summation of a sub n as n from 1 approaches infinity is not equal to 0, or there will be a number or greater than 0, then this is considered as divergence series. And if your summation of your sequences is 0, pag 0 naman siya, it is either divergence or convergence. So this is what we call the divergence test. Yung una mong ipa-perform is the divergence test to determine if that specific series is divergence or mamimili ka if magda-diverge siya or magko-converge. So in laws of series, wala na nung product, wala din nung fraction, wala din ng exponentiation. So sum and difference lang in the multiplication of the constant. Yun lang ang meron sa laws of series. So we go back to our example. Example of limit of 2n or yung summation of 2n. If that is summation of 2n, n is 1 and infinity, a sub n, if your a sub n summation of 2n n equal to 1 hanggang infinity, it will go to your s of n will be equal to infinity. Walang katapusan yan. Even if you multiply infinity plus a number plus a number plus a number, it's still infinity. Divergence series. Infinite means L constant. We just don't know kung ano yung magiging value nun. So if you put 100, then that is 200. So there will be a definite value for this specific s of n. So we have another series, the geometric series. If you have geometric series, you will start your summation from 0 since r to the 0 is 1. If we cannot determine the convergence or divergence in terms of the divergence test, that means pumatak siya dun sa 0, then we can perform this other testings that we have. So in geometric, if that is geometric series, if your r is greater than or equal to 1, then your series is a divergent series. Otherwise, if your r is less than 1, the absolute value of your r is less than 1, then that will be a convergence series. So yan, hahanapin nyo lang yung pinaka-value ng r. Then, in terms of determining its convergence and divergence siya, other than the divergence test, we are going to do it by inspection. We also have p-series. In terms of p-series naman, that is, we have a fraction and our denominator is raised to a power. If that power or if that exponent is greater than 1, then that specific series converges. And if that power is less than or equal to 1, then that is divergence series. So we have comparison test. Assume that there exists m greater than 0 such that your 0 is or your a sub n is greater than or equal to 0 but less than or equal to your b sub n. If your b sub n converges, it follows that your a sub n also converges. And if your a sub n diverges, your b sub n also diverges. And if your b sub n converges, or sorry, a sub n diverges, it doesn't mean that your a sub n will also be divergence. And ganun din, if your a sub n is converges, hindi din natin masasabi that your b sub n converges. Limit comparison test. If your a sub n and b sub n are both positive sequences, assume that the following exists. So if L, or the limit of your sequences, becomes greater than 0, then converges. And if your L is equal to 0, your b sub n converges. Absolute conditional, your summation of a sub n is called absolute converges if the absolute of your a sub n also converges. In terms of root test, so if there will be an L less than 1, then your A sub n converges, and if your L greater than 1, it is diverges. Kapag nag-1 yon, then the ratio is inclusive. Ang ratio naman, if your ratio is less than 1, then converges, and if your ratio is greater than 1, it diverges. At kapag equal sa 1, it is a inclusive.